sorry that I've been missing in action for almost 2 weeks. I was on a family vacation and I had a wonderful time traveling with my mom and aunt in the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, and PEI primarily. And it was beautiful. It was restful, but it was also very busy. I got to see a lot of places of those provinces that I haven't seen before due to a concerted effort to ask around people that were not from there, that had visited there, that actually knew about places that my family didn't really go to, because we get in our grooves, right? We're in our habits and we tend to always return to the same places. So I invited some outside input and ended up having a really saturated, satisfying vacation. It did require 2 days of rest because it was pretty action-packed. So all that to say, I've recalibrated, I'm replenished and grateful, and I am back to share more things from my experience. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I'm on a juice cleanse. I've never done this before. So far I'm really happy with it. It's pulp and press. I do feel a little guilty about all the plastic bottles. I got 5 days worth of 5 juices per day. They're different juices. You follow a different order. I love that there's a prescribed order so that there's just no thinking involved. That's part of the appeal of doing this cleanse, is I spend a lot of time cooking and thinking about food, and I love food. So it's just sort of nice to take that thinking out of it. That being said, if it was glass bottles, it wouldn't really be any better. They don't always get recycled, but maybe in the future, I would look into a place that you return the bottles for a deposit. Waste reduction is a really huge part of my psyche and daily preoccupation. Other than that, I'm very happy with it so far. This is my first juice cleanse, and I wanted to talk about why I decided to do this. Now, I come from health nut parents, both of them specializing in different things. Actually, the reason I exist is because my mom was on a cleanse. Either she was on a fast or a cleanse, and it threw off her cycle, and she got pregnant because the form of birth control that she was using was tracking her cycle. So her and my dad were dating. She's tracking her cycle. Being on a cleanse changed her cycle, because that can happen when we lose weight or just go through different physiological changes. And I was this unplanned product of some kind of cleanse. So I have always steered away from it. You'd think I would have some kind of gratitude that it contributed to my existence, but I'm really someone that prefers warm, solid foods. I don't very much enjoy liquids or cold food. I have to kind of remind myself to eat fruit or salads. But of all of that world, I definitely don't like smoothies. I will make myself drink them, and sometimes they're good, but I've always preferred juices. So all that to say, I wasn't drawn to the idea of only living off of juices the same way I'm not drawn to living off of raw fruits and vegetables. But it's been about 6 months now that I have been called to do a juice cleanse. Now, called, what do you mean when we're intuitively called to something? Well, there's thoughts that pop in your head. You start poking around, asking people that you know that have done it. And I asked my best friend who had done one what her experience was like, and her experience was terrible. She's quite slim. She's got a very fast metabolism, and she said she was like blue by the end, and she was really, her body temperature was super low, and she felt super weak, and it wasn't a great experience for her. I know that I have a different physiognomy. I have a lot more like flesh than she does, more body weight and fat, and a slower metabolism. So I thought it was possible I would digest it differently, but I still took it in and heard about the place that she used. And, just like that, poking around for stories over the months, And I looked into it a couple times, looked at the price, didn't really feel like I should make the investment at the time, but I kept returning to it. Now this is the point of why I'm making this video, is the answer to why I'm doing a juice cleanse is because my intuition told me to, because I trust my intuition, because I understand that manifestation isn't linear. So I felt an intuitive hit to do a juice cleanse. Now I can rationalize why. I have theories, I have hypotheses. My conscious mind is making up, theoreticals of why this could be useful for me. And one of them is that since I quit smoking cigarettes and weed, and since I stopped drinking heavily and all that kind of party lifestyle that I had in my younger years up until actually 2 years ago, I find that I use food more as my treat, and whereas I used to sometimes I would smoke a joint after eating, and that was like my dessert. Now I use food as my main consumption treat, so it's become a bigger focus, and I've always had a huge appetite, and so I eat a lot, and I eat very, very healthily. I'm not strict, but I just like healthy food, and I know a lot about healthy cooking. But I eat a large quantity, and sometimes I get tired after eating. And I know from experience that when I eat less, I don't feel like I need as much food, and that's just a matter of what your stomach is used to. So this is like the rational explanation is, yes, I do feel that I could use a kind of a reset. Even since doing this cleanse, I feel drawn to simple foods that I wouldn't normally appreciate. Like I keep imagining how nice it would be just to eat a baked potato with vegan butter and salt and pepper. That sounds amazing to me right now. Whereas normally I'm such a foodie and I love cooking and eating out also, that every meal is a treat. Like I'm known for never having a boring meal. Like if I'm gonna have oatmeal, it's gonna have 10 things in it. So because everything I make is so busy in terms of flavor and texture and variety of ingredients, it also feels nice to reset and just appreciate the simplicity of more basic foods. I mean, my boyfriend's always saying, like, you don't need to put all these flavors. Sometimes you just want to put olive oil and salt. So there's another kind of rational explanation for why I'm doing it. But to return back to my larger point is intuition, and manifestation. I don't think we always realize how interconnected our manifestations and intuitions are across different areas and realms of our life. So, I'm thinking of Lacey Phillips and her To Be Magnetic Manifestation School. She talks a lot about how love and money are connected, and I have definitely seen that, but I would go to say that that spans a lot more categories than just love and money. I only work with healers. I have a healer named Taichi that I love in Toronto, and he will talk about food in the same breath as he talks about pleasure, right? He'll talk about fatigue in the same sentence as talking about boredom. And so when we understand our systems as a network, like everything in nature and everything in economics and everything in life, then we start to realize that an instinct in one area, like doing a cleanse, might be related to my spiritual growth, my financial prosperity, a new direction I want to take on a project. These things are absolutely not linear. And that is why I trust my intuitive hits so much, is because, like, for example, yes, I gained a lot of weight since quitting smoking and weed, and since the pandemic, and since working at home, and these things made me more sedentary. And I eat also, since being vegan, I don't eat any animal protein, and so anyway, all these different reasons I've gained weight. And I haven't cared that much, to be honest. Like, yes, it bothers me that my clothes don't fit, but I feel good overall. I feel healthy. So the juice cleanse is not only important for its physical benefits. I feel pretty good physically most of the time. I could be optimized. There's things I'm always working towards, of course. But the reason I take it more seriously, I wouldn't just have necessarily done it for weight or for energy levels or whatever. I'm also thinking about how my intuition is thinking more globally, is working more globally, and I trust it so much that doing this cleanse, if I'm called to it, might be connected to having a baby, which is something that I want to do down the line. Something I would like to do sooner than down the line, but this might help down the line in ways that I can't predict. It could have an impact on my career, relationships, all these things that I mentioned. I know this from experience. And, just one example is, back to the subject of weight loss, is I have been, eating really well. I've been very active and I haven't lost weight for some reason, maybe because I put on more muscle, I don't know, but it's been this kind of mystery to me of why I haven't lost weight this year. And I just came back from this vacation where all we did is eat. We just sat in the car, we drove, I did no physical exercise. I ate a lot of fried foods, deep fried seafood, French fries. We were in the car a lot looking at sightseeing, and I just wasn't moving much. But I was satisfied. I was stimulated. I was getting my thirst for beautiful landscapes and different activities and different environments and seeing my family and quality time and fun. Those things were fulfilled. My inner child was really fulfilled. And I could feel when I came back, my clothes were feeling looser on me. And I thought, it's not possible. I expected to come back having gained at least, 5 pounds. And on the contrary, I lost 5 pounds. Now, that doesn't scientifically make sense. And I'm not saying that weight loss, it should be a universal goal by any stretch of the imagination. But I want to point out that non-linear aspect, that I believe that my being connected to joy and playfulness had my body, probably scientifically you could explain it as having less stress and less cortisol, but it's almost like my body was willing to let go of weight and insulation and lymph that it was holding. Now, I can't explain that for sure, but I know that in my manifestation process, if I feel called to do something like clean my couch that my dog gets very dirty when she eats a bone, it's actually her couch, unpack my suitcase, which I've neglected for 2 days. I know that little things like that, these tasks that call me, yes, they're important in and of their own right, but more fundamentally from experience, when I do those little things that are nagging at me, I will see direct impacts in other spheres. Sexuality, the money that I'm calling in, work will just boost up. So I just can't really affirm enough, and I talk about this in my blog called God's Homework. Excuse me while I just replenish with my NV juice. NV are my initials, by the way. This one's called NV. I want to encourage you all to read my blog post called God's Homework on my site, tourdesoul.org, and understand that when the muse comes a-calling, when those little birds whisper in your ear and ask you to do something, try something, look into something, you feel that intuitive hit and call, understand that you don't know why you're getting that call. It's not important to know how it's going to bring a manifestation or what manifestation is going to bring into your life. You need to trust you need to trust it more than understanding, because the understanding comes from hindsight, and it's also so interconnected that you're not going to know exactly the linearity of one thing. It's like these are all of our manifestations are like a web of our decisions that we make day to day in different areas. But I think a lot of people, they don't take the leap, they don't endeavor to take the intuitive action because they don't have the rational explanation for it, or they don't know what goal of theirs it's an utility that it's serving. And I think that's a really big mistake, because intuition doesn't come with a user manual or a red flashing warning sign. Like when you meet someone and you don't have a great impression, you don't feel like it's, let's say you're applying for a job and you just don't have a good feeling about working for them. Yeah, your mind will know 2 years into the relationship or to the job why you had that feeling. But at the time, you don't have the explanation. And so you have to get in the habit of trusting the feeling and acting on it. And then let hindsight have all the fun it wants. And the purpose that it serves will look a certain way 3 months after you take the decision or 2 years later. It keeps evolving, these kind of the ramifications or the unfoldings of why you took a decision. So why did I wait this long for the juice cleanse? Well, because I've been kind of preparing my body for what I hope will be a pregnancy. I'm not at the point where I'm trying that yet, but over the last few years, I've been trying to prepare my body in various ways. And one of the things I have managed to do is regulate my cycle. I have quite a consistent cycle, which I never had. All those years on the pill destroyed that system in my body, and I really managed to get that back on track. Partly, I use the Flow app from Alyssa Vitti, and I didn't want to lose that. And that is a fear. I know from experience that if you lose weight rapidly, or you're exercising a lot, or you're stressed, or you change your diet, all those things can affect the regularity of your cycle. And I was afraid of losing that. And what I've made a decision long ago is that if I really feel intuitively called to do something, I don't let fear or scarcity mentality or what I could lose interfere. Even if it's good common sense wisdom of why you don't want to listen to your instincts because you think you know what could happen or you're being cautious about something, that common sense wisdom sometimes is limited in its scope and its ability to see perspective, chain reactions, take into factors that are out of your control, out of your current range of eyesight. And that's something I also learned studying ecology. I did a year of environmental studies at McGill, and what looks like a quick fix solution, for example, when they discovered how much water cotton used in its production of clothing, it was this horrific ecological realization that cotton was very inefficient in terms of its production. And so everyone started using bamboo. And bamboo grows really fast, it regenerates itself, it uses less water in production. But then it caused this massive deforestation because it would spread, it would dry out the soil because it was replenishing so fast, the soil would become arid. So when we look at things in isolation, does this decision look good for this one factor I can see here? We're not looking at things as a network. And it's the same thing with our instincts and our manifestation. If we think we have a goal and we think that the path there is going to be linear, then we're missing out on our intuition, which is kind of like the fly, how it has an eye that sees with a bunch of thousands of little eyes. That's how I see our intuition. So when you feel called to do something, and then you're looking at these little justifications of why it's not secure and why it's not safe, I urge you to trust your fly's eye, your third eye, and get out of that calculating mode. And the more that you take a chance on those intuitive hits and take the action and take the leap into the unknown, you'll get a feedback and you will see that things work for you. And that feedback mechanism creates a neural pathway that confirms, okay, it's actually safe to follow this intuitive call. Even if I don't understand it or other people don't understand it, eventually it will be understood when I look back and realize the puzzle piece it fit into the different things that I'm trying to manifest into my life and the direction that I'm going. So no call to action is too small. If there's something that you've been avoiding or denying, there's that little voice inside that's like, you should do this, or I think you want to try this, or I want this. Start where you are. Don't worry about the ones that you've missed. Just look at what that little voice is telling you now and commit to it. Take the action, no matter how small or big, and don't judge the validity of the action immediately based on the immediate consequences. Trust that the reasoning for why you took it will unfold over time and repay you later. And sometimes you will see dividends right away. Either way, you're building your trust muscle and it'll become easier to trust it next time. So I hope that's helpful for you. And I just want to remind you all that my course, Living by Divine Guidance, Co-Create Your Morning Routine for Self-Healing, is on sale for 25% off until September 15th. So you enter the code back to school. When you get to the checkout page, you can access the course sales page through my website. And, you know, if you're looking for a crash course on how to trust your intuition and double down on it, then that is the course. It's really like a personal trainer gave you a regimen on how to work all the muscles every day that you need to be fit. This is the equivalent of that if you want to be spiritually fit and be able to rely on that intuitive muscle every day as you go throughout the day. This is the training that you do in your daily practices that will ensure that you can rely on that trust muscle when you're not in your daily practice, when you're going through your regular life and you're faced with the pressures and challenges and fears that arise in those situations. So do check that out. I can't recommend it enough. It's really had a profound effect on the people that have taken it so far. And I will be back here more often now, so you'll hear from me very soon.